Peace and greetings from throughout the boundless universe. All praise is due to the Most High. Papa. We'll start this shadow hour by discussing our subject right here, our subject matter. And in the write-up or in the description, if I can get it all, it won't show me all of it. We say that we're going to ask you to join us on our journey as we return to Man from Planet Risk and revisit the curved flat earth. We will use the scroll to answer questions flat earthers cannot. So we're going to basically go through the scroll Man from Planet Risk, and we're going to look at some of the stuff that Dr. Malachi Z. York wrote about and that other people wrote about throughout history, because you know this book is based on facts. This is one of the supreme mathematics scrolls. And since we are supreme mathematicians, this is right in our field of discussion, the flat earth, since it deals so much with mathematics. We will travel through space, time, energy, and matter, between planes, dimensions, states, and conditions, to set the stage and or to marry the topics, extraterrestrial involvement and interdimensional intervention, causing the Mandela effect. That's on flat earthers. We will watch a video that explains the conspiracy to keep the mathematics hidden from you called God's fingerprint. And that's going to just kind of set the stage. The video, God's fingerprint, is not going to be directly tied to the whole thing. But since we're talking about flat earth, I do want to discuss some of the conspiracy, because what I mean by the conspiracy is I already mentioned that flat earth is let's see, Ray. I already mentioned that flat earth is a part of the spell. Okay? Now, let me do that one more time. I had left that up there over a couple of days, I guess. Still working on some other stuff. But we're about to get to it, because we just kind of started letting people get it. And this is our point. See, it's work. That's why y'all have to support me and donate, man. That's why y'all got to support the IAML and New University and subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us out with our project. We're still working on the book. We're working on some things to deal with, some other things that I can't even really discuss on this channel or at all. But we really need y'all help. We really need everybody's help. And if we had y'all help, it would make it better. It would make it easier for us to get those things done. So if you can find it in your heart and in your soul to feel what we're talking about and to just contribute to our cause, our purpose, we would very much like that. It'll be used wisely, and it'll be money well spent. So please donate and please contribute to our cause. Now let me see what I was gonna say. Oh, I was gonna say that. Let's put it right here since it's not that much of a big deal. Flat earth though. We said that flat earthers suffer from the spell. They suffer from the spell. What are the spells? The spells was sleep. The spells was amnesia. The spells was the spell of sleep. the spell of amnesia, the spell of forgetfulness, and it was a spell of ignorance. So now, when we say they suffer from this spell, then we said that also certain people's barytheric gland had been removed. Barytheric gland removed. And we mentioned the programming of movies like 1984 by George Orwell. That you should, I recommended that book by George Orwell, where they get the word Orwellian from. And that book was supposedly written in 1944. So you do the math, 1944, 1984. And remember, in Math for Planet Risk, we were talking about 1943 and 1983. Now you do the math. 1943, 1983. This right in line, 1 year after the dimensional shift and 1 year after the dimensional shift. You see, 1983, 1943. So it's a lot of intricate mathematics and things that we're trying to show you that I would like for you to see. That's why it's a list of things here. That's why I list things out so that you can see it in parts, because it's just too much information to actually just sit down and discuss in detail. 1984, barytheric gland removed, flat earthers, suffer from spells, what each spell is, how amnesia comes about, how forgiveness, how ignorance is. You have to research that. Help me out now. But this is what I'm saying. These are some of the things that you will have to look into. Like, and so we talked about the barytheric gland being removed. We talked about Mandela. We talked about Mandela being lobotomized. That means having a portion of his brain removed, or his brain removed. Lobotomized. Nelson Mandela being lobotomized. We talked about the time differential. When from 1983, let's do it now, to 1943, right? Where this whole thing of programming and extraterrestrials coming to the planet, extraterrestrials coming in Roswell, 1943, 1947, the dimensional shift, the Earth biorhythm, all of that stuff taking place, and it's locked up with 1983, which we can read about. We read about before in Math from Planet Risk, and we're going to get to a book called Who Was on the Planet Earth, let me see the name of it. Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve Story. We're going to address that book. So then in 1983 was locked up with this. You see what I'm saying? This George Orwell book was about the future, about this 1983, although the book was written in 1944. It was about 1984 in the future. So this 1943 is about this 1983 in the future. And so this is the same thing that's happening. So what I'm getting at is this Mandela lobotomized is what created what the authors now call flat earth or Mandela effect. Mandela effect. Now listen to what I'm saying now, because this flat earth and Mandela effect, the mandala has a mathematical root. Now I'm not saying Mandela now, I'm saying mandala. Mandala, which is a sacred geometry shape, as they call it, sacred geometry. So that's what that is, a mandala, which is a sacred geometry shape, which is also related to the sound Om, which is a sacred tone. So then, these beings with the sacred tone are the same beings that made the mandala, the sacred geometry, the shape to track. The same beings that made and by the way, Hindus do not chant on 440 or 432. Okay? nor do any of the Arabs, nor do any of the Christians. None of them have 432. So when they created, they chant their tone for on, and we can read that in Man for Planet Rich. We read that before. Thank you, peace. Thank you for the love. You know, we can read that these people on this own tone, these are the same beings. Now let me get to who they are. They call Zeta. Thank you, peace and love. They call Zeta reticulans. Zeta reticulans. Now this brings us to the Zeta Riemann function in mathematics that involves zero or division or zero division. It involves zero division. The Zeta Riemann function, Zeta reticulans, zero division. These are these beings that are in charge of this tone. And this so-called sacred tone, which is not sacred at all, has been corrupted. They plan to trap your mind using this musical tone. So this is music. So then we mention music. We mention movies. We mention magazines. We mention media. These were the mediums in which we said these beings, Zeta reticulans, or Zeta reticulans would use. And so these are the mediums in which they use. And so behind all of this program, behind all of this right here program, this, and we talked about MK Ultra, and if we get around to it, I will show you this shadow hour who MJ24 is, the Thule Society, Madame Blavatsky, because there is a MJ12. They talk about MK Ultra, and you know, you have MI6, right? And you have MK, which is 18. So 6, 12, 18, and 24, and then Ultra. That's how they rock it. That's how they do it. So this is MI. And we talked about James Bond and the whole thing. So they have a whole monarch, 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 mind control, Mortal Kombat, killing machine. They have a whole program for all of this right here, built into the movies, built into the things that you watch, built into the programming in order to get certain results. It's called Hegelian. It's called problem, reaction, solution. So once they program the people, the masses, right? That's another M. The masses, once the masters, program the masses with monarch programming and get them to become part of this MI, MJ, MK, part of this programming. And they do got one for black people, for Nubian people. I already showed you where it was one concerning Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Michael Tyson, Michael Jordan, who else? There was a couple of people that was included in that M project that I had talked about. Michael Jackson, So let's get back to the mediums they use. So once the person is programmed and the person is a Manchurian candidate, MK, Manchurian candidate, then the person is under the medium, or what they call a handler or a proxy. The proxy is like M. Well, M was to James Bond. MJ. See, James Bond, MJ. James Bond. M was to James Bond, MJ. So she, MJ, was a proxy or handler of James Bond. And so then this media and these magazines and these movies and this music that these beings called Zeta Reticulans are in charge of under the name of Hollywood and Bollywood. Bali is a place in Hindu. Look it up. Bali is Indonesia. Bali is Baal, from where you get the Bible Baal or the wicked one, Baal, that's that. And Hal, hold, that's not holy. That's for Halabian. So when you look at the word Bali and Hollywood, you get Halabian, Halabian. So these are Halabians, or a group of beings that's made in the center of the earth, not on the flat earth, called Zeta Reticulans, Zeta Riemann function, and they have a machine, another M, they have a machine called a computer. A machine called a computer. And that computer is called a machine. Let's erase up. Let's get this right so we can write this out. See, it's called International Business Machine, IBM. And IBM made a computer called HAL, H-A-L. And HAL is none other than HAL. So when you say IBM made the HAL, then the first letter after H is I. The first letter after A is B. The first letter after L is M. So this is how they create mental programming, and this is how they speak to each other in an extraterrestrial language that you have to put together. And now it's becoming more than binary, because now on top of binary, they put prime numbers. And this is now called encryption. So now that it's encrypted, encoded, and enciphered, then that's going to be just that much harder to break this spell of ignorance, forgetfulness, amnesia, and sleep, because it's been encrypted now. It's been encoded now. It's been enciphered now. That's what's been happened to the brain. So let me pick up this thing that I just got. Okay, so these Zeta Reticulans that's in charge of music, movies, magazines, and media, and other mediums, this makes them the handlers of people's minds, the proxies of people's minds. Therefore, they can put them in different type of programming, like MK Ultra, MK18, MJ24, MJ12, MI6, M16. They can put them in these, there's masters over the masses called mass programming, subliminal, what? Suggestion. That's one. Seduction. It's subliminal messages, subliminal suggestion, seduction. You know, this is how, and I'll think of the rest of them, but this is how they really program people. This is how they really get to people. So these Zeta Reticulans, they also want control over the mental plus the emotion. They want control over the mental and emotional energy. And the one way to control the mental and emotional energy is by mediums. Medium. Look up what a medium is. What a medium is. One way to control the mental and emotional energy is to become a medium between that which controls the frequency of mental and emotional energy into the earth plane. So these mediums have put themselves in a position called principalities of high places. They have put themselves in a position where they are now over the mental and emotional energies of the planet Earth. They are now involved in high-scale technologies dealing with the ionosphere and dealing with, things like HARP projects and CERN and different things like that. They're involved with Philadelphia experiments and Manchurian candidates, monarch programming. They're involved in all types of mind programming and mass programming, mass media, broadband. So these proxies are handled as being Luciferian, and Satan. So they're Luciferians and Satanists, but together they're called Yahweh. And they have subgroups, like for instance, like in music groups called Natas, Natas, and that's nothing but Satan spelled backwards. And that's why you can play music and stuff backwards, because that's what the music is supposed to be, backwards. So these Yahwehians, as Luciferians and Satanists, so they done crossed over into religion, and they done crossed over into science. Thus, is some confusion between like scientific theory and then theology. And really that should be on the other side. Theology, because Luciferians practice theology. The Satanists practice only theory. You see? So then the theology or theologians are versus the theoreticists or the theorists. So this is basically religion versus science. Religion versus science. And therefore you get spirit science. All of these are nothing but New Age creations that's done by Luciferians and Satanists, known as your proxies and handlers, called Zeta Reticulans, and also known in the many different religions, starting with Hinduism, Judaism, Christism, and we'll say Mohammedanism. And we should change this to Krishnaism, and we should change this to Mosesism. Let's do that. We always do it, right? Let's do that. Since we doing it right. Krishna. We're gonna know how we spell it. Krishna is okay, and then Moses. I wonder why it's not Abrahamism. If Abraham is the father of Judaism, why isn't it Abrahamism and it's Mosesism? Ask a Hebrew Israelite that. Ask a Hebrew Israelite, why is it Mosesism and not Abrahamism? If Abraham is the father of the religion, that old time religion, Abraham. So if Moses was the new agent, then what happened? Okay, did they fall off the track of Mila Ibrahim, the rights of Abraham? I think so. So now, so these Zeta Reticulans, using Krishnaism, Mosesism, Christism, and Mohammedism, putting it in music, movies, magazines, and other forms of media, in order to monarch or cocoon the brain, cocoon people's mind. This is called a mind cocoon. MK stands for mind cocoon. It's so many things so just go back through this video and listen to what I use for MK. Because it's so many things that even tie back into Hitler. And Hitler and the Secret Service. You know what I'm talking about? Or the SS. So the Third Reich and the Fourth Reich. This Hitler's boys and the U.S. boys. So then, okay, so now, so these Zeta Reticulans Now, you're not supposed to know this. You're not supposed to be hearing none of this. You're not supposed to know nothing I'm talking about, straight up. You're not supposed to hear nothing I'm saying. So now, these zeta reticulans use this chant or this vibration in order to appear holy and to seem like they're saying the same thing that the ancients said, and they're not. They're vibrating on a different frequency or tone. I was going to go into the 432 and the 440, but I really didn't want to get too much into it. But I just want to just show a quick reminder of what I mean by you got to know your frequency and you got to know your mathematics. You got to know, because we went through this on other with the 8 octaves and all of that. I don't have time to do that, but what we can do is show that 432, because a lot of people, they'll just gravitate to this and they'll be willing to look into it. 432 equals 6 times 6 times 6. Now, what that tells you, I don't have to say nothing. I'm not going to say a word. You look into 6 times 6 times 6, you look into 432, and you tell me. I don't have to say nothing to you about what 432 is. I don't have to say nothing to you about 440. I don't have to say nothing to you about any other frequency that they may be vibrating on as far as you choosing that as your own frequency. I shouldn't have to say nothing else about that. But I will, because people are going to fight me on that. Okay, so on the sacred tone, and why this could be your real frequency and the real frequency for music. And we should get into that. We should get into the 3-2 ratio in music. On the sacred tone, mandala, sacred geometry, the mandala, the shape that they use. And 1983, by the Mandela effect and that whole falling asleep syndrome and that whole what it was, a time warp. It was a time warp. The whole time warp thing that happened by way of the Mandela effect. The whole thing where people were missing time. The whole thing where people were thinking things had happened that hadn't happened yet, like the death of Mandela. But they didn't associate it in no kind of way because all of this is going on. They couldn't associate in no way this Mandela effect with the Monarch programming, with the MK Ultra program, with the proxies and handlers that's mediums, over the media, magazines, movies, and music, that's handling religion, Krishnaism, Mosesism, Christism, and Mohammedism, no matter what they are part of, even the Masonic, let's add that M in, even the Masonics, the Masonic order is a part of it. So no matter where people go, they caught in the what? In the what? Let's say it's another M. They caught in the matrix. And the metrics of that matrix, the metrics, the numbers, the metrics, the METRIC, the metric and the matrix. So no matter where people go, they go to Masonry, Muhammad, they go to Messiah, they go to Moses, they go to Krishna, no matter where they go, MK, MC, MK, MK, no matter where they go, it's the same song, it's the same story, but they can't see past the magic, see? They can't see past the magic. They can't see past the magic. They can't see past the magic, the majestic, the majestic, the majestic. They can't see past this. They can't see past the majestic, the majesty. So they stay trapped under the spell. This is what the spell is. So then they stay trapped on a certain frequency and they get caught in a certain zone. And then they get caught under a certain symbol. And then they start saying stuff like, red is my favorite color. Yellow is my favorite color. They don't even know who they are. They really don't. This is an issue. This is a problem. This is sick. This is sick in the head. So then you have the Mandela sacred geometry. Then you have the Mandela effect, the time lapse, the time illusion, that effect on people, the Earth's harmonic grid, the biorhythms, the opening of the vortex every 10 years, 1943, 53, 63, 73, 83, 93, 2003, 2013, and when? 2023. Be ready. Mandela lobotomized, his brain removed, people's barytheric gland already removed. George R. Orwell already wrote a movie about the Orwellian society, all about Big Brother, which is none other than mentioned in the book of Revelations anyway, all about the computers, all about the control, the mind control, the emotional control, all about the energies. This has already been written in 1944, 1 year after the project started. And to put the seal on it, 1 year after the project ended, he finished the book. He wrote the book for the ending. Barytheric gland removed. And this has everything to do with the Church of Scientology. This has everything to do with Seventh-day Adventists. This has everything to do with the Catholic Church. This has everything to do with every organized or orthodox religion that you can name, from Hebraics to Judaism, everything, Mohammedanism, everything, Islam, organized Islam, everything. So the barytheric gland was removed. So now you wind up with a bunch of people. After all of this information was known, you wound up with an ingsoc. That's mentioned in the book 1984. You got to look it up. Ingsoc. You end up with a bunch of people that their history has been erased. The knowledge of who they are has been erased. Not only were they once slaves, they think they were slaves and only slaves, but now they done lost knowledge of history of coming over here on a boat and knowing that the earth is round. They done lost their mind. And this is important. The reason why we bring in slaves is because of the hate. The hate. See, they have developed so much hate for their captors and for their masters that they rebel against their masters, but they rebel against their masters to their own detriment, because it's not that their masters have this knowledge or information, it's that their masters have stolen and corrupted this information and have refed it to them as religion. So then they turn on their masters thinking that everything is religion. It's just like being lied to over and over again as a child. If somebody say, you could touch it, it ain't hot, then you touch it and it's hot and it burns. Or they say, you can go, you won't fall, and you walk and you slip and you fall. Then you say, well, I can't really trust this person. Everything they say, it happens to me, the opposite. So that's how people started to feel. Because we're dealing with minorities, y'all. There go another M. We're dealing with minorities, minors. That's what people are. They are minors. So they're in a minor or minority mind. They're in a small state of mind, a minor state of mind. They're in the mind state of a child. A minor is the mind state of a child. And when I say a child, I'm talking about almost an infant, someone definitely below 7 years old. 4-year-old mentality, absolutely. And this is what they operate on. And the mind, let's add that as an M. And we talked about Martin Luther King. We talked about Malcolm Martin Luther King, who was Michael King at first. We talked about Malcolm X. We talked about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We talked about Bob Marley. We talked about everybody, Malachi. We talked about Melchizedek, Murdoch. We could talk about many, many, many things that come along with all of this and all of this mental, psychic, mind control and all of these beings. And some of these beings, I'm not intending or I don't mean to mention them as if they're under these beings, as if Murdoch or Michael is working on behalf of these beings. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Some of these beings start to work against these beings. For instance, like Malachi, he always was against these beings. Like Michael Jackson, he realized for the last days. Michael Tyson realized at some point and then fell back under the spell after he sacrificed his daughter, things like that. So, barytheric gland removal, flat earthers, their hate for these people, over here, and that hate for the illusion causes them to try to tell everybody everything is fake, when in fact they are under a spell themselves, and they thinking they right. They suffer from these spells of sleep, amnesia, forgetfulness, and ignorance. It's a big computer called IBM HAL, and these IBM HAL are the same thing as your Halabian Flugeroids or Hollywood and Bollywood, these same beings, the same Aryan, Nordic, the same one. And so that's what we were talking about. So we put this whole story together just to get started reading the book Man from Planet Risk. That's how the thing goes. So I'm erase this so that when we do read the book, if I do have to get up again and write anything, I don't have to erase the board again after all that. So now if you understand that and you listen to what I just said and you go back over that, you won't find no flaws in that knowledge, in that logic. You won't find nothing wrong with that. You'll find out that if you research everything I'm saying, you'll find it to be the facts. And if you research everything I'm saying, you'll find it to be something that the master teacher taught. Since that's so important to everybody, it ain't nothing that I teach on this board that the master teacher didn't teach. Period. Hands down. And even the new stuff that I do teach on this board is stuff that he asked me to teach personally. Okay, let's get it popping now. Let's see. Okay. Now, so we said we was gonna discuss a video. I wanna sort of apologize in advance. My other phone right here, I always do this. It's broke. It won't even come on, see? Can't even do nothing. So that's done. So I don't know what happened to it. So we're gonna have to watch on my regular phone. But we're gonna watch a video called God's Fingerprint. Let's get it popping.
Individuality, the trademark of any artist, designer, or architect. Each desires a uniqueness to their creation, a quality that separates it from any other. Man naturally has this individuality. His fingerprint. There are 6.5 billion people on the face of the earth, and no two fingerprints are the same. Everything we touch or make contact with is branded with a small expressed image revealing to all who see it who was there. Around 1200 AD, a man named Leonard Pisano, better known as Fibonacci, discovered a sequence of numbers that created a very interesting pattern. The sequence begins with the numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and continues indefinitely. Each number is obtained by adding the last two digits together. A rectangle with a length and width of any two of the numbers of this sequence forms what is known as the golden rectangle, a perfect rectangle. A golden rectangle can be broken down into squares the size of the next Fibonacci numbers down and below. If we were to take a perfect or golden rectangle, break it down into smaller squares based on Fibonacci's sequence, and divide each with an arc, the patterns begin to take shape. We begin to see Fibonacci's spiral. The spiral in and of itself is insignificant. Its importance is revealed in where we find it. Take, for example, the sunflower. The display of its florets are in perfect spirals of 55, 34, and 21. The sequence of Fibonacci. The fruitlets of the pineapple create the same spiral based on the sequence.
Thank you, Pam.
The cone does the same. As currents move through the ocean and the tide rolls onto the shore, the waves that bring in the tide curve into a spiral that can be mathematically diagrammed onto a plot at the points 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and 55. Buds on trees, sand dollars, starfish, petals on flowers, and especially the Nautilus shell, are formed with this exact same blueprint. With each segment of growth, the Nautilus adds to itself one more value on Fibonacci's scale. This blueprint can be seen around us on a small scale every day, but the greatest example of all is directly above our heads. At an average of 100,000 light years across, even the spiral of the galaxies above us.
Thank you, fam. Peace and love.
With the exact design that the tiny shell is formed. This sequence or blueprint appears to be the trademark of a designer, a proof of a creator, something left behind, indicating the one who was there, a fingerprint. As we scan our universe from the tiny flower to the awe-inspiring galaxy, we see the fingerprint of God.
You know, Mother Nature uses all kinds of mathematical languages, and when we go to understand physical phenomena, we generally find that there's some sort of mathematical underpinning to whatever the phenomenon is.
I'm going to pause it right there just for 1 second because I want everybody to listen. I know you saw the little map, and that was great. But right now, peace, family. I know you saw the little map, but now I want you to pay close attention to what these guys are about to talk about. They're about to talk about the conspiracy to cover up the mathematics and to keep this hidden from you. So keep in mind that all the things you saw about the sunflower, about the Nautilus shell, about, you know, Fibonacci, you didn't learn none of that in school. Why wasn't that taught to you in school, though? You didn't learn none of that in school. None of it. Ask yourself, say, why did I didn't learn about Fibonacci numbers and bees and the way they procreate? I didn't learn about the way Nautilus shells grow, the way sunflowers grow, the way all petals on flowers grow, the geometry of roses and apples, the number 5. I didn't learn about none of this stuff. What happened? So what I want to show you right quick, what I want to show everybody right quick is that in what they're talking about, when they're going to tell you about you not knowing about Fibonacci, what they're not going to be able to show you is that this is the mathematics that you are missing in order to understand Fibonacci. I'm going to say it again. This number line right here is the number you need in order to understand those numbers. Without this understanding or this dimension, then you cannot do it. Now, before I move on, I just want to show one thing. This is your y-axis. This is your x-axis. Let's just say this axis coming out 3 dimensions. This is your z-axis. Okay? We'll call this the z-axis. So now, all of these can be gathered by using this number line alone. So this was 1D. We'll say this was 2D. And we'll say this is 3D. So now, we can't draw a line perpendicular to these really, that other than that, you know, and that'll be a repeat of that line. So we can't really draw another line on this board because this line is actually coming out at us. So we can't really draw a Z line. We can't really draw another line on this board to show another dimension. But all of these dimensions can be discussed using just this number line alone. So then once we introduce this new number line, then this new number line is obviously your doorway to the 4th dimension. It's obviously your doorway, my people, to the 4th dimension. You understand what I'm saying? That you have 3 dimensions here, and all 3 dimensions can be gathered and figured using your number line. The reason why you can't gather and figure a 4th dimension is because you have to have knowledge of this number line. And the 4th dimension, right, would be 0. It would be the new axis. It would be a new axis, you see? this fourth dimension. So that would be another thing that we're going to talk about concerning the tetrahedron and the simplex and all of that good stuff. When we talk about these things, you're going to see what I'm talking about when I say this fourth dimension. And even in Man from Planet Risk, I was reading where Dr. Malachi York mentioned 3 tetrahedrons instead of 4. And he said 3, yeah, 3 crafts forming a tetrahedron, or 3 stars forming a tetrahedron, and not 4 stars. So you can't have a tetrahedron with 3 things. That's a whole nother science. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, and 0, 4D. So I just want to point this out, that when they mention in this mathematics, these are the things that new mathematics, my mathematics, your brother Babylon, your brother Bess, your brother I go by many names, and my wife, Bastet, these are the things that we bring into the table. These are the things that I'm showing you that can be added to your mathematics that you don't know about. It's a lot of things that we could talk about, and that's why we ask for your support. So let's get back to the subject at hand. You saw the Fibonacci little numbers, and now what we're about to watch is the actual talk about how this mathematics has been kept hidden from you.
Just like that series you find in nature.
Wait, let me go back a little bit.
Like the mathematical languages that when we
of a designer, a proof of a creator, something left behind, indicating the one who was there, a fingerprint. As we scan our universe, from the tiny flower to the awe-inspiring galaxy, we see the fingerprint of God.
Mother Nature uses all kinds of mathematical languages that when we go to understand physical phenomena, we generally find that there's some sort of mathematical underpinning to whatever the phenomena is.
Fibonacci sequence.
Just like that series you find in nature, like the base of a sunflower,
or the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
How did we end up in a universe like that?
Why should the world behave according to mathematical laws?
And it turns out, in fact, all of our senses appear to rely on sort of Fourier transforms, that they all seem to use the same mathematics. So again, here's evidence that the brain uses the same mathematics to decipher the sensory world as are involved in the making of a hologram, which is, as I say, not proof, but compelling evidence that something is going on.
Not only that it becomes easier to describe with mathematics, as you go deeper and deeper into reality, mathematics becomes the only way to describe reality.
Facts.
Conspiracy to hide this information that DNA is a Fibonacci is an exemplification of this number called, or entity, ratio sequence called the golden ratio, the ratio that proves the existence of intelligent design, or the reality of intelligent design of the cosmos. I mean, if you go to the golden ratio site for Wikipedia too on the same theme, they don't mention any of this stuff in nature that we're going to talk about here, that we talked about on the show 2 days ago, and that we're talking about here. They talk about how it's found in architecture and math and all this kind of stuff. They don't discuss it how it's found in the measurements of the human arm. Why not? It's just, I mean, well, I think I'm making, that's the point here. I think that just made sense to me, thinking this through as I say it to you. It has to be a conspiracy. How could all this be overlooked, and how could Wikipedia leave it out? It can't be. It has to be somehow that big money has pushed their influence somehow, and they've had a drive to keep this covered up or something. These can't all be coincidences, and since they're doing that with everything else, it has to be the case that there's some movement to keep this stifled. I mean, why isn't? And here's another piece to add to this. Why isn't this in our education system? We learn all this geometry, P-brain stuff. We take geometry in high school, and they don't teach you about any of this. The golden ratio everywhere in nature. I went through elementary school, high school, college, undergrad degree in college, master's degree, and halfway through a PhD, and never was any of this mentioned. And we know who controls the universities, the big money behind it, all the way up to the Illuminati Nephilim someone was including, never mind this, Davidson College site showing up #1 in Google all the time at the first page, and Wikipedia having these strange measurements which don't correlate with all kinds of these examples from academic sites that find, and I'm putting them all, pictures of the screenshots in the newsletter. It's got to be a conspiracy. I mean, we could keep going compiling the evidence, it would just all lead to it. So, and if we could keep compiling evidence of it being a conspiracy, I mean, everything points towards it. I'm just throwing ideas off the top of my head. These strange sites show up at the top. Wikipedia is wrong. It's covered up completely in the best-selling books about the golden ratio, which come from wealthy university professors. It's the universities and education, government-controlled educational system absolutely covers it up. You see how, I mean, everything's falling in the same direction. You know, so whenever they, all these conclusions point to the same direction, that it's covered up.
Geometry we did learn in school called Euclidean geometry. You can't model nature with it. All those triangles, cones, cubes, and spheres are not what nature really looks like. But when we were 5 years old, in kindergarten, we made a tree. We made a Euclidean tree. We had like a cylinder for the trunk and a ball for the top. But obviously that's not nature-like. That geometry is not the nature geometry. We now recognize this new geometry that really came into our world in 1983 with the work of Benoit Mandelbrot from IBM called fractal geometry. And it's a different version of...
See, now, otherwise, you see what I explained to you just then, way back then about IBM, another M, Mandelbrot, the number, the year 1983? Listen to what this dude say. Listen. This is the reason why.
Fractal geometry is unique geometry, not the one we learned in school. The geometry we did learn in school called Euclidean geometry, you can't model nature with it. All those triangles, cones, cubes, and spheres are not what nature really looks like. But when we were 5 years old, in kindergarten, we made a tree. We made a Euclidean tree. We had like a cylinder for the trunk and a ball for the top. But obviously that's not nature-like. That geometry is not the nature geometry. We now recognize this new geometry that really came into our world in 1983 with the work of Benoit Mandelbrot called fractal geometry. And it's a different version of geometry. It's very exciting, but here's the fundamental key characteristic of this geometry. Built into the nature of the mathematics is a reality that images of the structure repeat themselves in a very self-similar fashion at any level of the organization that you're talking about. So if you want to talk about cells or people or civilizations, they're all built on the same geometry. But the key word for most people to understand is that this geometry links an ancient mystical understanding. There was a phrase that people are familiar with. Well, in this new geometry, that becomes mathematical and scientific as a reality.
As above, so below. In this geometry, that becomes mathematical. That becomes a reality. Okay? So, I just want to write down that he mentioned fractal geometry. There is also something called spherical geometry. There is also something called Euclidean geometry. There is also something called non-Euclidean geometry. Now, if you only deal with Euclidean geometry, then you could possibly believe the earth is flat. If you ever step into any non-Euclidean, any spherical, any fractal geometry, then you will know definitely that the earth is not flat. So this is the problem, family. You have to be willing to go with me. I'm going to show a video on non-Euclidean geometry. It's probably going to be less than 10-15 minutes. And a video on spherical geometry, probably going to be less than 10-15 minutes. And we're going to show a video on fractal geometry, probably less than 10-15 minutes. and probably one on Euclidean geometry. Probably less than 10 or 15 minutes, probably 7 minutes or something. However short we can get it. But we're going to get a good video. I'm going to find it, not this shadow, because we got a lot of stuff to cover, but just, we need to discuss this. Y'all have to look into this before I show the videos and look up your own video. And even if you don't understand it, just know when you come back here, I'll be able to explain it. We'll be able to talk about it. You'll have more in-depth knowledge of it just by hearing about it. When you see me explain it, you will be able to get fractal geometry, Mandelbrot sets, spherical geometry, Euclidean, non-Euclidean geometry. And I told you, Euclid wrote a book that's second bestseller to the Bible. They say it's the second bestseller to the Bible. Euclid's Elements. That's the name of the book. So you'll definitely know that the earth is not flat. So that's just some of the stuff that I wanted to tell you about, since they were talking about geometry there.
Built on the same geometry, but the key word for most people to understand is that this geometry links an ancient mystical understanding.
Link to ancient mystical understanding.
As above, so below. Well, in this new geometry, that becomes mathematical and scientific as a reality.
That's what makes it sacred, y'all. The fact that it's linked to ancient mystic understanding. That's what makes the mathematics or the geometry sacred.
Every atom is a mini black hole that has infinite energy, that has infinite potential, that everything has singularity at its center. The vacuum energy, the structure of the vacuum itself, interlinked or entangled all protons. So the proton being the nucleus of an atom, that all the nuclei of atoms are entangled because of the structure of the vacuum. That the structure that the vacuum is not a passive vacuum, but an active vacuum that has a role to play in the creation of our material world, but as well is the structure that connects all things. So actually, this is a mathematical rendering of the concept. Everything is one, so that it actually is mathematically proven.
That's why I can study the.
So he said, at the center of all things, there is a singularity. You notice in the little ball they were showing, it was a little light flashing in the center. But he said at the center of all things, there is a singularity. And so in this singularity, you see this number here, nu. But at the center of everything you currently do, there's a zero, not a singularity. The singularity arises right here for you now. When you reach 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you can't go past 1 because on the other side of 1 is 0. And you don't understand what's between here. So you don't understand nothing between the 1 and 1. So current math stops right there. And this is part of what we were talking about, the zeta function, the zeta reticulum. This part of the spell that has been left out to keep you short of your information, to keep you thrown off in all types of knowledge, to keep you away from this higher dimensional knowledge, is to keep you trapped behind 1, 2, 3, to keep you trapped on this side of hydrogen, to not allow you to this side of hydrogen, or really to keep you trapped on this side of hydrogen and not allow you to this side of hydrogen, which would be the anti-side or the antimatter. But not only that, not allow you to this higher realm or dimension of numbers and mathematics that exists. This is their job, is to block you from that. And that's what I'm trying to allow you access to. They want to block you from this, and I'm trying to allow you access to this dimension, to this domain. And these are the people that I'm working against. And I know it's hard for you to understand that is beings that's working this hard, but I thought that this video help you to understand it. And one of the things that the guy said in this video that I even forgot to mention, he called them the Nephilim. He called them the Illuminati Nephilim. He said that's who blocking it. He called them the Illuminati Nephilim. Let's spell it with an F. We can spell it with a PH, but let's spell it with an F. Nephilim. He called them the Illuminati Nephilim. And that is absolutely facts. That's correct. Because who are the Nephilim? They are the 200 fallen. Right? They are the 200 fallen. Now let's get this out the way for a second so we can explain these Nephilim for a second here. Because we talked about the Luciferians and the Satanists. So now we got their seed here, right here, Lucifer, Satan. Another name is Yahweh or Jehovah. Let's write Jehovah the monstrosity, because that's what he is, a monstrosity. Jehovah. Okay? So that's the monstrosity. So these 200 fallen angels, along with Lucifer, these 200 fallen angels are the Nephilim, and they became the Illuminati. Now, who are they though? Who are they? Originally, the 200 fallen angels fell down to Bali. Where? To Bali? To Bollywood? Didn't you just mention Bollywood? Are they in Indonesia? Yep. Indonesia? Yep. Indonesia also. Yep. And that's the what? Indus Valley? Wow. And you said that that's the Hindu? Yep, exactly. And they call themselves Indian? Absolutely. East Indians at that. Oriental Indian. And so these became your Asiatics, or your Indo-Asians, Indo-Chinese, Indo-European, Indo-everything, Indian. They became that, and that gave birth to every single religion that we talked about, from Krishnaism to Mosesism to Christism to Mohammedism. It gave birth to those religions, and these are the same Illuminati or Nephilim or Luciferians or Satanists that's a part of the MK Ultra programming and all of that whole thing that we went through a few minutes ago. Okay, so let me explain something since we're into mathematics too. Let me explain something. It's kind of intricate. It's interesting to me because when I heard the story, I used to want somebody to explain it to me. I wanted to know. When I first heard the story, I wanted to know. I was like, dang, that's my story, and I don't even understand it the way they telling it. It took Dr. York to come and explain my own story to me. They had twisted my own story up so much. So it goes a little something like this. If you have 200 fallen angels, then you have 200 here and 200 here. So then that's 600 angels. But only 200 fell. So what happened with these 400? The 400 repented. But the 400 were originally, let me write it right here. These 400 were originally a part of a group of 600. Because 600 actually fell, 400 repented, and 200 went ahead and fell to earth. 400 repented, and 200 went ahead and fell to earth. So then they was originally part of a 600 group. So before this 600 fell, let's make a little bit more room between them. So before this 600 fell, they were a part of a group of 1,800. They were a part of a group of 1,800, 600, and 200. And so yeah, 246. So that's how that went. You see that? So it was 1,800 times 3 beings. Out of these 1,800, 600 fell. Out of one set of 1,800, 600 fell. Out of one set of 600, 200 fell. And 400 repented. So these 200 were called Nephilim, the fallen ones, the earth. These were Hindu demons. This 400 was called the repentant. Not, this 400 were called the repentant, but what should we call them? We would call them cherubim in a way, but they were more than cherubim. We'll go ahead and call them cherubim. But they were a part of a larger group called seraphim or malachim. You see? So I just wanted to explain, when they say 200 beings fell, you have to trace back the fact that 200 of what? 200, if they 200, this ties into what? Let's show this in another way. They say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So they say 1/3 fell. So 1/3 would be 200. 1/3 of 600 is 200. So this becomes 1/3 itself. So when the 1/3 fell and the 400 repented, only 1/3 of the 600 that fell, 200 in all, actually fell. So then this would be 2/3 and 2/3 over 1/3. And this is why Yahshua himself is considered a being that's 2/3 Elohim, because it is both, and this agreement and this covenant that's in place. Okay? So that's the explanation as to how 200 beings fell to earth and who they are, the 200 Nephilim, and how they were a part of a larger group of 600 beings in all, known as cherubim. And these 600s were a part of a larger group of 1,800, known as the seraphim and cherubim. And these were a part of a larger group, and it goes on. That's what thus we call it the nomarch. The nomarch. Not hierarchy, the nomarch. So let's go back a little bit and let's get this video started again.
The structure of the vacuum. The structure that the vacuum is not a passive vacuum, but an active vacuum that has a role to play in the creation of our material world.
That's called a torus.
Is the structure that
A
connects
donut torus.
Actually, this is a mathematical rendering of the concept. Everything is.
So let's put that in. Don't forget this, y'all. Suppose the earth is a torus. Let's talk about torus earth. We talk about flat earth. We talk about round or curved earth. We talk about hollow earth. We talk about domed earth. What about torus earth? Or what about horse saddle earth? Horse saddle earth. Yeah, let's look into these things right here. Horse saddle earth. Look up a horse saddle. Look up horse saddle earth in mathematics and see what you come up with for that. Those are different types of things that they use in topology, y'all. I'm being funny, but that's true.
Is mathematically proven.
That's why I can study the nature of a cell and understand the nature of a human, because a human is a fractal image of a cell. We're made out of cells. We're just a large version of a cell. And so that a human body turns out not to be a one thing as we see it in the mirror, but when we really understand it, you can see it with microscopic eyes, and you see what it looks like. You recognize that a human body is a community of upwards to 50 trillion cells. Every cell virtually every cell has every function that I have in my body. It's already present. As a matter of fact, any function that I do with my body is only because a cell can do that function, because I'm made out of cells.
Well, I think that
Now that's important. Any function that I can do that function because the cell in my body can do that function. That's why I can do that function, because the tiny cells that I'm made of do those functions, not me. The tiny cells in my body perform the action. They have the information in order to pull the thing off that I'm thinking. That's powerful. That's powerful information right there. That's what you have to know. You have to know things like that about yourself.
You see what it looked like. You recognize that a human body is a community of upwards to 50 trillion cells. Every cell is essentially a miniature human, because virtually every cell has every function that I have in my body. It's already present. As a matter of fact, any function that I do with my body is only because a cell can do that function, because I'm made out of cells.
Well, I think that the world of physics and the world in general is transforming, and that there's an opening that's occurring. And certainly in physics, there's a level of arrogance
opening.
that's slowly fading away. Not so long ago, when I started bringing my work to the physics community, some 15 to 20 years ago, the tendency was to think we've got the universe pretty well all figured, and all we need is a few little things to work out, and then we have it. And so there was a lot of arrogance in the way physicists were interacting with new ideas and so on. And so it was extremely difficult to be heard. But since then, a lot of failures in our theories have come forward. A lot of experiments in laboratory and data from cosmological instruments and so on have shown us that there's anomalies that we cannot explain with the standard model, and all sorts of things are coming up. And so, a certain level of failure of string theory and so on. And I think that it's changed the world of physics.
The same responses of cells to their world are exactly the same kind of behavioral responses that we have in our own world where we live. So then it becomes understandable. This is why, for example, when we work on cells in biology, because if we get an understanding of the nature of the cells, we can apply that information directly to the nature of human biology so that we extend this work. So in looking at nature's fractal and recognizing that the cell is the fundamental unit of the human body, that the human body is actually built in the image of that cell, then we start to remember inside of you right now are 50 trillion citizens. Each cell is its own sentient being. When I was culturing these cells, I'd take them out of a person's body, put them in a culture dish, they have their own life. They didn't need us.
It helps to get other physicists to look at it, to get some credibility in the physics I'm writing, and to make people aware that we are not living in a finite world, that the atomic structure itself has this infinite potential within it, that when people are talking philosophically or spiritually about their infinite nature and all this stuff, it doesn't have to be outside the physical world, that the actual physical world is what they're talking about, that philosophy and spirituality are not divorced from the atomic structure, that the atomic structure is actually a manifestation of this dynamic of creation that we might call consciousness or spirituality and so on.
See that? So this is where most of your new age consciousness and spirituality is coming from. And thank you for mentioning Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. Thank you, Regina Jones. And I see you, Michael King. Peace, family. I see everybody out there. I can't really see all these names, but thank y'all for joining us, man. So remember, out of everything I wrote, the first board and now this board, take all that. Let's bring all of that knowledge and information with us. Let's not leave it to the side. We have to carry all that with us. And then we'll re-enter or revisit Man from Planet Risk. Now let's see. Where exactly do I want to start after all of that? Okay, right here. He says right here, let me start from the beginning. But we're going to start one. We're going to start one before that because we want to set the stage for something, even if we reread something that we read before. Let's see. Okay. We'll start right there. Let me get some water right quick. I mean, a little bit too, boy. All right. Man from Planet Risk by Dr. Malachi York. This white planet that he is talking about is Nibiru. We're on page 35, Man from Planet Risk. This white planet that he is talking about is Nibiru. As said, Nibiru will not come into the Earth's atmosphere, but a crystal city will come with the atmosphere, within the Earth's atmosphere. And from the crystal city, shams, or the passenger ships, will come to the planet Earth to pick up worthy passengers. Strangers, this author, uses Revelation chapter 21 as a reference, which speaks of a holy city, New Jerusalem. The four squares that he is referring to is a four-square force field, north, east, south, and west, around the Nibiru and the Crystal City. Now, this is one of the first things that I want you to notice, that Nibiru is being described as a four-square city with a four-square force field. This is called three-dimensional, y'all. This is not two-dimensional. Okay, remember, the Sumerians and the Egyptians both recorded Nibiru, and they did not record Nibiru as a two-dimensional flat surface. They recorded it as a three-dimensional orb traveling, or a cube traveling. And the Crystal City, this is not a new discovery. I have been talking about the cube, or this cube, which is really a force field, for years. Refer to the Wise Men edition 188. 181. Nibiru, you won't see with the naked eye. The cube or force field around the Crystal City measures each side as 1,500 miles in length, width, and height. So that's 1,500 miles square. So that means you know the deal. Take a box. 6 equal sides for the 6-pointed star of walls inside of the 72 yards. Now the number 72 is very important because you have 6 equal sides. So do the math with me, family. First of all, I showed you a magic square. It may take us a long time to read this book. It really don't matter. As long as we get the information out. Right. That's all that really matters. As long as the information come out organized, it can be effective. As long as information can be organized, then it can be efficient and effectively used. So we'll just use this as the time to talk about this, because sometimes you really don't realize how much stuff there is to talk about on a particular topic. Okay, so, and our job is not to read a book. Our job is to explain what's in the book. So obviously, we're going to be stopping in the book. 9, 5, 1. If you want to read the book, read the book. Okay? So we talked about this magic square. And we talked about how everything on here equals 15. 9 plus 5 plus 1 equals 15. 2 plus 7 plus 6 equals 15. 15. So we talked about how all this equals 15. How all of this, no matter which way we go, diagonal, that way, that way, that way, that way, we talked about how everything around that equals 15. And we talked about how we could come from the center and go this way and that way, so in that way, this way and that way, and this way and that way. 8 times, and then we could total this whole thing up to 360. That's what we figured out. We figured out that it's 360 degrees of 360 worth of information in here, plus 1. But we'll worry about that later. But we figured that out. We showed that. So now, what I want to show you with the 15 is that Nibiru, or the Crystal City, is 1,500 square. Okay? It's 1,500 square, meaning it's 1,500 length, 1,500 equal width, and 1,500 equal the height. I spell it that way. The height. And so, now what this means is, we got one right here. What this means is that, let's say that the yellow square, let me get out of there because my shirt yellow, look at that, that's crazy. So let's say that the yellow square is going to represent our length. See, that yellow square is going to represent our length. And then we'll say our green square is going to represent our width. So we have length and width. And our orange square is going to represent our height. So we have length, width, and height. See that? So that's how we can determine it. Length, width, and height. And so then we could take this just like the corner of the floor. So then we could take another one of these just like that one, a 3-way, just like that one, and we could sit it right on top. And that's what forms our cube, our 6 sides. 8 points, but 6 sides. So that's what forms our cube. So this is what forms Nibiru. So that's what we want to show. We want to show that we're dealing with 3 dimensions of space, time, energy, and matter, and that we are dealing with shapes, platonic solids, and otherwise, when we're talking about the solar system, the stars, Nibiru, the planet Earth, we're never talking about 2 dimensions. We're never really talking about a second dimension. Even the beings we're concerned with exist on more dimensions than just 2. So now, let's see. Okay. Now, let's see. What was I now? Okay, so let me turn back. So what we were talking about were the 1,500 miles in length, width, and height. And then it says it has 6 equal sides, the 6-pointed star of walls inside of the 72 yards. So now, this number 72, we mentioned, family, I want you to stay on this. I want you to keep remembering this. We're gonna write it down as much times as we need to. We see the square. This is a perfect square. 3 by 3 equals 9 squared. Or equals 9, I'm sorry. And 3 by 3 equals 3 squared. 3 by 3. Okay? So now, what we want to show is that, first of all, 1 plus 5 will give us a 6. What we also want to show is that it's 1,500 and the 72 yards. We talked about 72 being room temperature. We talked about 72 being 6 feet, the number of feet or inches a person is buried deep. We talked about 72 being the amount of water in the body versus the amount of solids in the body. So 72 is a very important number. But also, if we were to divide 360, if we wanted to divide 360, we could divide 360 by 1, by 2, by 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and even 10. But we could not divide 360 by 7 even. See, we can't do it by 7. But we could do it by 7.2. Or we could do it by 72. Which makes sense because the Earth is 360 orb. Now I'm showing you sacred geometry, not the white man geometry. This is mathematics. This is sacred mathematics. I apologize for that, not geometry. So now look, this is alchemy. If I tell you that it's 72 names of God, we watched a movie called God's Fingerprint. So it's 72 names of God. If I tell you the earth is 72% water, earth. If I tell you room temperature is 72 degrees, now remember, you can break a circle up into fractions, fractal geometry. It could be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, or it could be 120 degrees, 120 degrees, 120 degrees, like the 120, okay? Or it could be 33.3, 33.3, 33.3, or it could just be 33, 33, and 33%. So we could break this circle up into this. And the circle can only be, the 360 can only be divided by 7.2, not 7. The number of names of God is 72 names. Water on earth is 72%. The degrees of room temperature is 72 degrees. The only number, 7 will not divide the circle. 72 divides the 360 into 50. Or in the case of 7.2, 50. In the case of 72, 5. So if this number is 72, it'll divide 360 into 5. You see that? So this is sacred to you. This number 72 becomes a code for you in understanding what takes place on all levels, as above, so below. So this number 72 is very important because when we get into the next number, he's going to mention 144,000. And 72 plus 72 is 144. And 44 divided by 14 equals pi. Because 22 divided by 7 equals pi. And 11 alienate or divided by 3.5 equals pi. So this all ties into the 72, the 144, the shape of the earth, what happens on the earth, the degrees of the earth, whether the earth is a circle or flat. All of that's going to tie into why the earth is round. I'm not just giving you no scenario where I'm trying to paint no picture of a flat earth or a round earth. No, we're talking about mathematics. We're talking about if you go inside the earth, which means it's not flat. If you went inside the earth, the pyramid and the earth maintain 72 degrees room temperature. Okay? So the mathematics of the pyramid prove that the earth is not flat. The inner chambers in the pyramid and the subterranean chambers in the pyramid prove that the pyramid are not flat. It proves that the pyramids are not flat. Okay? So now, that's 72. That's 15 related to the square. This square is going to be important. This triangle pyramid is going to be important. This 360 globe is going to be important. Let me show you one reason why. Because there's such thing called longitude and latitude line. And there's a such thing called a great circle. And if you were to go from the North Pole to the South Pole, that'll be 1/2 of a great circle. And if you went up the other side, from the South Pole to the North Pole, you will make a full circle, and that will be called a great circle. This is a great circle. That's the master great circle. And then there is one other great circle. It's called your equator. Your equator is a great circle. But no other circle is a great circle. Only the longitude line. And that's because all of the longitude lines pass through the North Pole. And all of the latitude lines pass through the South Pole. Now, this would be considered a pole, and this would be considered a pole on the equator. But anywhere else you go around the equator, it would be a shorter line than the center point. It would be a shorter line than the actual equator itself. So this gives you your zones and your tropics. So these lines actually get shorter and shorter as they go down and get closer to the pole. They get shorter and shorter. The latitude line. But the longitude line, they all remain the same length because every line in longitude passes through the top. Though none of the lines in longitude pass through here. Nope, all of them go through the center, through the South Pole, and back around. Through the center, through the South Pole, and back around. Through the center, through the South Pole, and back around. So all of these are considered great circles because they go from the front around the back, from the front around the back, from the front around the back, from the front around the back. So all of the longitude lines are great circles. So now, and the equator is a great circle. So now, let's show a little bit of stuff that they don't show you now, because people will be afraid that I might be just talking about what other people talking about. So let's draw one great circle again. And let's draw the equatorial great circle just for the sake of it. And well, actually, I'm gonna have to do a better job of drawing that to actually show you something, or at least try to show you. Okay? Now, we talked the last time about this square box that's right here. We discussed that square box in the center. What I want to discuss with you right now, though, is this line and this line. I want you to pay close attention. This line is a straight line. This line is a straight line. I'm going to say it again. The longitude line is a straight line. It's going straight down to the bottom, to the south, and straight around back up to the top. The only reason why I look bent is because we're going around the circle. We're going around the circle. So, if this is Earth, then we are going around here. We're going around the circle. We're going around it. So if this is a great circle, then we have a circle inside of that like that, just doing this. And so that's a great circle. So then this line, see that, family? This line is straight. So that means that if I had another line here, it'll be straight. If I had a line going through here like this, that line would be straight. If I took another line and did it this way, that line would still be straight. These are straight lines. And so the line at the equator is straight. So when a straight line meets another straight line, what do we have? Let's say it. When a straight line meets another straight line, we have a right angle. We have a right angle. Regardless to what it looked like to our eye, when a straight line hits another straight line, we have a right angle. And where is a right angle? 90 degrees. 90 degrees. So this means that if I took a line, let's see how we will do this now. If I took a line and I continued this straight line, straight here, then that means that this line would also be a straight line, and this line would be hitting a straight line, which would be 90 degrees. So then in here, I would have two 90-degree angles. And right here, if this is a straight line, hitting a straight line, then here, I would also have a right angle. And if this is a straight line, hitting a right line, then I would also have a right angle. So I would have 360 degrees. I will have measured the circle. This line here is straight. This line here is straight. This line here is straight. The line for the equator is straight. This is straight. Right angle, this is straight. Right angle, this is straight. Right angle, this is straight. Right angle. 4 right angles equal what? 360 degrees. Non-Euclidean geometry and other forms of topology. You ain't never seen this before, but this type of mathematics, and if you knew what this shape was, I was showing somebody that today, but that's a whole other thing, Jai. So, and I hope you're watching out. You see what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? When you know what this is, when you know these extraterrestrial shapes and you know what they actually mean, then you're no longer surprised by the mathematics that's arrived in here. So now we got these 4 right angles, 360, 360, 360, 4 right angles, 360. So we now know that just assuming this whole straight line thing of a flat earth, we know that this is impossible because you will have lines that meet this dimension that actually form 90 degrees. As above, so below. These are sacred symbols, y'all. These are very sacred symbols. These can be found all throughout Egypt and everywhere else. This is not something exclusive to me, but the reason why I'm showing them to you in this fashion so that you'll never get trapped again. So that you can't get trapped. So you can see the reality, the equator. So you can see what this is forming. And this is what? 180 degrees. This is 180 degrees. And this is 90, 90, 90, 90. That's 360 degrees. That's nothing flat about that. That's not the flat earth. And we can do the same thing up here. This is 90, 90, 90, 90. And that's 360 degrees. There's nothing flat about this. So that's what we want to show about the 72 and the 144. Okay, so let's see what we were now. So it reads, or the force field Q, or force field around the crystal city, measures each side as 1,500 miles in length with height. 6 equal sides for the 6-pointed star, or walls, of the 72 yards. 144 cubits, Revelation 21:16. The square force field is constantly moving around the crystal city as a protection. There's a square force field around Nibiru. How does the square force field move around a circle or beehive object? You hear the question? How does a square force field move around a circular or beehive object? Now, it's a reason why he mentioned, well, I just got to erase it, fam. It's the reason why he mentioned a square force field moving around a circle or moving around a beehive type object. I think it's pretty easy to imagine a square force field moving around a circular object. Even if y'all can't see that, I'm drawing it anyway. Okay? So that's a cube or a square force field moving around a circular object. Now, just remember though, that in a tetrahedron, you have 4 sides. And these 4 sides can be brought together to form the tetrahedron. So if I put these 4 sides on a board, if we were to take these up here like that, like the 4 tetrahedron, if we were to take the 4 triangles up there, then you can see more of what I'm saying about this forming a 4 force field. So let's draw it this way then. So we have So we have that. And we have that. So how do we get a force field around it? We have to take a line and draw it here to the center. And we have to collect these lines from here outward. And that's the way you can have a force field of 3 crafts forming a force energy around the earth. Around the earth is this type of setup. That's the type of setup that's around the earth. Those are the forces or the force field that controls the earth's magnetism and controls the light that enters the earth. That's the covering of the earth. It's called a tetrahedron. It's the simplest shape in nature, platonically, solid. So now, I want you to pay attention to something though. When we had this square here, and then we added this, that's actually adding a dimension to the box. That's adding a dimension to the square. That actually changed the square into a cube. Now, remember this. Don't let nobody play no linguistic words on you neither. All squares are cubes. All cubes are squares. Think about it. That's one of the linguistic tricks that they play on your mind. A cube is a square. And a cube is square. Let me say it again. Cube equals square. A cube is square. But every square is not a cube. See? That square is not a cube. This is a cube. But a cube is a square. But a square is not a cube. That's important in quantum entanglement. That's important in understanding even that 0 times n equals 0, but n times 0 does not equal 0. Facts, mathematical facts. I can prove that. We proved this. 0 times n equals 0, but it don't work the other way around. N times 0 does not equal 0. Facts. So now, when we show this, and the last little shape that they were showing at the end of that video, where they took squares and they took triangles and they basically made a shape using squares and triangles, and that's what he was showing floating around on the board with all the talk he was doing. Well, that shape right there, I think it's called a cuboctahedron. A cuboctahedron. It's another it's close to a platonic solid, but it don't have all the same vertices or same shapes, so it's not a platonic solid. But the reason why we mention that is because the way we drew this square as a child would draw it, the way we drew this cube as a child would draw it, as opposed to doing this, which is basically the same effect, the same thing. You got the same 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines connecting 2 squares. It's a square here, and it's a square here. And you get the same 4 lines connecting each square. So that's what that becomes. So with this cube, this is the same thing. So if we want to take this to the fourth dimension, we'll do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we would actually connect these lines. And then we'll be taking this shape into another dimension. We'll be taking this shape into a fourth dimension. But that's the same thing we did with this square. That's how we raised the square to another dimension. You see that? So the same way you raise a square to another dimension is very similar to how you raise a cube to another dimension. Okay? I think I'm missing a line or two there, but that's okay. I think you get the general overall picture. But this is why we know the earth is not flat based on this type of geometry, based on this type of mathematics, based on these type of mathematical facts, based on this type of mathematical symmetry, based on the 72 degrees and 144 and the way it divides 360 and the way room temperature, water, and all these things, and the water in the body is 72%, and all those things line up. So this is your orb inside of your cube. This is what we're talking about here. So now, and this is how Nibiru can travel. So now, there are 8 corners on a square. In any direction that one moves, the other moves. So we have 8 corners on a square. We have 8 corners on a square. If I move this corner, then this corner gonna move. If I move this corner this way, then this corner gonna move that way. And if I move this corner this way, then this corner gonna move this way, and this corner gonna move this way, and this corner gonna move this way. So no matter which way I move any corner, even these corners, if I move any corner, whatever way I move the corner, the whole thing follows. So that's how a square thing can move around a circular thing. So it reads, there are 8 corners on a square. In any direction that one moves, then the others will move. If a square is revolving at high speed, it turns into a circle. However, if a circle revolves at high speed, it still looks like a circle. Whenever the crystal city is caught on camera, it looks like a square. In other words, if I rotate this at high speed, it'll look like a circle. I'm not going to drop it and break up nothing, but if I rotate this at high speed, it'll look like a circle. It's important that corner I put it on too, to show that. All right, so now, the crystal city is caught on camera. It looks like a square. Now, listen to what he said though. Because these mathematical axioms, these maxims, these proofs, and these theorems that the master teachers put down, they can easily be overlooked. However, if a circle revolves at high speed, it still looks like a circle. So let's look at that in quantum physics. Because we was just talking about quantum physics right here, quantum mechanics. So let's make that statement. Let's make that a mathematical statement. We'll say a square with an R in it, revolving. That means revolving, a square revolving. It equals a circle. It appears like a circle. But a circle revolving, we'll put an R in there, show that it's revolving, still equals a circle and does not equal a square. So what's happening here? This is the same statement. A circle, a square revolving equals 0. 0 times n equals 0. But a circle revolving still equals a circle. So it does not equal a square. So n times 0 does not equal 0. N times 0 equals some other number other than 0. So then this mathematically checks out with the mathematical facts we have, the quantum physics and mechanics of the Earth, and what's happening with rotations of squares and circles. The mathematical facts check out with what the master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, taught us about dimensions, about planes, about states and conditions. And don't let nobody fool you talking about, no, it's not a flat Earth, it's a flat plane. They ought to be ashamed of that. That's ridiculous. They ought to be ashamed of that lie right there. Because you should know by now that you have planes and dimensions. And you can look up on the internet how to define, which is not well defined. These things have never really been well defined anyway. Planes, dimensions, states, and conditions. They're hard to explain in words. Much like some of this is hard to explain. It's hard to explain a singularity. It's hard to explain a fourth dimension or a fifth dimension. Watch the movie Flatland. It's a movie called Flatland, the movie. Google it. YouTube that. Flatland, the movie. And you will see that it's a movie called Flatland, the movie. So look that movie up, and you will see that in this movie, there are one-dimensional beings, two-dimensional beings, three-dimensional beings, and then there's fourth-dimensional beings. And the three-dimensional beings step down to the two-dimensional beings, and they try to explain to the two-dimensional beings that a three-dimensional exists. The two-dimensional beings cannot perceive it. But the two-dimensional being one day wakes up in a dream, realizes what the three dimension is. From the second dimension, he could perceive a third dimension. But one day, the two-dimensional being actually had a vision of a fourth dimension. So he steps up from the second dimension to tell the third dimensional beings about this fourth dimension. And the fourth dimensional beings called him crazy. The third dimensional beings called the second dimensional being crazy for perceiving of a third dimension, of a fourth dimension. Even after the second dimensional being told the third dimensional beings, remember, I was like you. You came and explained to me the third dimension. I was only thinking everything was two-dimensional. But once you explained it to me, now I understand the third dimension. I'm telling you about a fourth dimension, and now you can't understand me? That's ridiculous. And that's exactly the paradigm of what's happening on the planet Earth. That paradigm in flat Earth is exactly what's happening. Don't nobody know who wrote the book. Okay? Let's finish. Would 144,000 be under the spell when this occurs? When he say this occurs, he's talking about this shift. Answer no. They have been pre-encoded. See, that's a whole nother thing of mathematics. We're going to have to draw the helix on the board. We're going to have to do some 37.5. You seen that 37.5 in that Fibonacci video? That's the same thing that happens at DNA. DNA splits at that marker right there. But a whole nother video, we'll get into it. No. And all of this genetic bioastronomical knowledge about who you are, all of this bioastronomical knowledge, this DNA knowledge, is supposed to prove that the mathematics that we're showing here is right. That the mathematics inside of your body matches the mathematics on the board. The mathematics of a woman is tied to the moon. Her celestial cycle of menstruation is tied to the moon. The hair on your head, it grows up in the curl of a number 9. See that? Yeah. Grows in the curl of number 9. That's called 9 ether. And that's showing your alignment with things further than the universe. The fact that you have Fibonacci numbers based on the aesthetics and mathematics of your body, from your face to your fingers down to your feet, that tells you that you're universally aligned with this mathematically. So your mathematical position in mind does matter as to where you are. So in other words, what I'm saying right now at this point is that intellect plays a great role in where you will be and where you end up. It's not all about feelings and heart. No, I know we talk about the heart, and I know I'm big on the heart. I just explain things about the heart. The earth is the heart. I'm telling you, the atmosphere around the earth, the environment around the earth, called mind, is just as much as important. So you have to take care of both of them. So now, so no, they have been would 144,000 be under the spell when it occurs? Answer no. They have been pre-encoded to break the spell by awakening at this time with the help of the facts I put out. That means that their DNA structures were genetically designed to go off at the sound of my voice and reading the scrolls like an alarm clock at a designated moment in their own lives in order to accommodate more facts and right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding. So your DNA would explode and the structures would change in order to hold more information. You've already been pre-encoded with information, but you've been pre-encoded to break the spell and to open up your DNA to receive more facts and information. This is to say, the curing human being was prepared to engage. The time for genetic alignment is from the year 1970 to the year 2000. That's 30 years, 1970 to 2000 AD. It was thrown off by 3 years in 1940 AD to 1943 AD with the invention of a time machine in the Philadelphia experiment. See, that's something they don't tell you about. That the 1970 thing was thrown off by 3 years. 1970 was thrown off by 3 years to 1973. So then that aligned everything with 43, 53, 63, 73 with the Earth vowel rhythm. The Earth vowel rhythm peaked on every 3. Every 10 years, but on the 3. 43, 53, 63, 73. So then this 73 was linked in with that. Thus 83, 93, and 2003 was a designated time that people missed out on because everybody was focused on the year 2000. But there's more math to it than that. With the invention of a time machine in the Philadelphia experiment, this is the awakening period for this cycle. You must be returned. Now, what does he mean by this is the awakening period for this cycle and you must be returned? Let's keep going. Question. Is that why it seems like time goes so fast now? Answer. The dimensional shift, time and space, anomaly, it got anomalies, but that would be abnormalities. So it should just be anomalies. The dimensional shift, time and space anomalies, irregularities are being experienced on your planet at this very moment. Most people have the sense that there isn't as much time as there was or as there used to be. This is usually expressed as my, how time flies. My, how time flies. Have you ever asked someone what time it is and they say 3 o'clock p.m.? Then what may seem like to you 20 minutes later, when you ask and the time that has passed was actually 1 hour and 10 minutes, you say to yourself, where did all the time go? Or have you been in a situation where you have many things to do during the day and you can't seem to get everything done in the day like you used to? It's not because you don't work as hard as you used to. You just never seem to have enough time in the day to get all the things done. Time has literally been sped up, family. And remember, we said in regards to the Mandela effect, Mandela effect, we said that that was related to time lapse and time loss of time, missing time, memory. There go another M, y'all, memory. Amnesia, sleep, ignorance, forgetfulness, time, memory, money. Time is money. There go another M, y'all, money. Times Square. Times Square. So The reason for this sensation of less time is because there is in reality less time. In order for a dimensional shift to happen, space is collapsing to create a new dimensional time. So we say space, time, energy, matter. Even though we have four, we sort of link and group them as a continuum like this. But much like we group the mathematics into multiplication, let's do it in order and let's do it right. Let's not get sloppy. Okay, we have minus, we have alienate, we have add, and we have times. Minus, alienate, add, and times. So just like we have these four, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Just like we have these four, quantum, minus, alienate, add, and time. And just like we showed these two don't work, these two don't even work in the opposite direction. So imagine if we start dealing with the inverse of this, which is division, or the obverse or the inverse reverse of this, which is division again, but going in reverse. So these will yield different numbers. 0 divided by n will not equal 0. So those will end zero numbers. Those will end some special type of numbers that we work with in this dimension. We don't want to get off into that right now, but what we want to talk about, we have to discuss that though, because when we talk about this 1, 2, 3, 4 in this quantum, and we talk about space, time, energy, matter, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we talk about grouping that in two, binary, and we're talking about grouping that in two, and then we talk about the inverse of minus is add, and the inverse of division is times. Then we see that these cross up in a way. They don't just go in reverse. They sort of overlap in a way right here. They have a transformation. And I even talked about how when they go above this plane, this ma'at even flips and becomes A M T. Ounce. It becomes an ounce. That's a measure of time. That's a measure of time. So even this ma'at has a flipping stage where it flips above the plane and above the dimension. So by way of this mathematics alone, where you have just 3 dimensions here, these 3 dimensions would show you that the earth can't be flat because you have 3 dimensions of mathematics. And then once you raise up to this dimension of mathematics, you know that the other dimensions exist because this dimension of mathematics is outside of the 3 you have. So it's up to the 4th dimension already and beyond. So now when we talk about grouping in space, time, and energy and matter, and we're talking about the movement of that, that's the type of quantum entanglement and supersymmetry that I want you to be able to see and to follow Dr. Malachi Z. York on. I want you to be able to see that everything we're teaching here is in fours, it's coming in quantums, and I want you to see that everything has the obverse, it has an inverse, it has a reverse inverse, it has a traverse, it has a transverse, it has many types of verses, a universe, a multiverse, a omniverse. It has many types of verses in which a number are positions of entanglement or symmetries that a number related to a sign can hold. You already got numbers. Then you add in a sign, and then you're talking about permutations of those numbers revolving around those signs. You can get so many permutations you couldn't even count them. There'll be like infinite amounts of permutations in your mind so you couldn't even count. Just like these dimensions, if we were to try to imagine anywhere really beyond I would say the 4th or 5th dimension, once you get beyond that in imagination and you start dealing with isotopes and different things like that, the mind can be blown at 600. You know, for real. It's a lot of information contained in there. So that's not our objective, is to blow the mind in that direction. Our objective is to expose the mind, to let the mind peek into that dimensional reality and be able to see that those things exist, and to be able to see that in time, the mind will be able to grow and perceive that if the mind has been grown and prepared in that direction. But because the mind is prepared in another direction, and that direction is to not see that, it actually hurts the mind to actually have to view that. But once the mind has been prepared after 4 generations, number 4 again, will be set and prepared to do that. Thus, our job in preparing the 144,000. A whole nother story. But we here. Let's go. So is that why it seems that time goes faster? Absolutely. You know, you got less time. Okay? It's not that you're not working as hard either. So the dimensional shift. So we're talking about not a plane, we're talking about a dimension. In order for the dimension to shift, let's show a dimensional shift. Let's show a dimensional shift. Let's show a dimensional shift. This is a shift. This is 2-dimensional. It has length and width. We want to shift that to the 3rd dimension. We have 4 lines. We add 4 lines. We just shifted this to the 3rd dimension. We want to shift this to the 4th dimension. That's basically all we have to do. We can talk about those lines out there, but that's basically what we're doing. And if we want to shift this to a higher dimension, and all shapes can't do this. Just the tetrahedron and the cube can do this. All the other shapes, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron, they fall short of being able to do this. So this is, we raising this up in dimension. So if we want to have a dimensional shift, Dr. Malachi York tells us that in order for the dimensions to shift, not a pole shift. A pole shift will be a shift on the plane. That'll be we're talking about a dimensional shift. If the dimensional shift, in order for the dimensional shift to happen, then space has to collapse. And that will create time. You see that? So then your question should be, what happens to matter and energy? We know what happens to space, it collapses. We know what happens to time. So if we were to relate energy to space and time to matter, then would energy collapse and create matter? Collapse energy. Create matter. Absolutely. Facts. Dr. Malachi York, you're a genius, man. You're a polymath. For putting this out in a book and for having this encoded in a book for us to one day wake up to, you're a polymath, man. You're the best. Dr. York, you're the best. For doing that, for putting that in there, for encoding information like that in a book mathematically, you're the best, brother. Let's go ahead. So now, the reason for this sensation of less time is because there is, in reality, less time in order for a dimensional shift to happen. Space is collapsing to create a new dimensional time. Conversely, space is collapsing to create a new dimensional reality. And it is up for grabs. That reality was the energy and matter that we discussed. that is between each of your ticks and tops. There is a space of time called in music a rest. You don't use it, so it's up for grabs. There's a vortex that opens up every 10 years because time is speeding up. You get caught in time. Because time is speeding up, you get caught in time. I'm going to take this time, pun intended, to show a little bit of something we already discussed, but we want to apply our knowledge. We want to apply what we remind you of. We want to be able to apply what we're talking about. We don't want to talk about it and then not be able to apply. We don't want to know something and not be able to apply and utilize. So when we talk about time, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Wow. Yeah, we got 12. So now, let's talk about time. Let's do time linear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We discussed this before, but what we want to show is how many spaces do we have in time? If this is the clock, how many spaces we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If this was a clock, we would only have 11 spaces. But since this is the clock and it's a circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But since we put the clock in a circle, we can have 12 figures. But in a line, we would actually have to add 0. So when Dr. York talks about missing time, he's talking about these spaces in between time. Between the tick and the top. And this lost units of time is based around the fact that you don't have a 0 and you count linear. So then time would only have 11 spaces instead of 12 spaces. And thus, even though they tell you you have 60 minutes in an hour, you only see 3:59 and then 4 o'clock. You never seen 3:60. If it's 60 minutes, you never seen the completion of 60 minutes. It should go 3:59 to 3:60. And then should it go 4 o'clock or should it go 4:01? You see? So this is the conundrum. And this 0:1 and 0:0 is the same problem that we've been talking about the whole while. 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. It's the same problem intellectually that's missing from this circle. It's the same kind of intervention of what's missing from this number line is missing from this circle. And missing from this line is missing in your time. It's all missing in your time. Okay? So now, what is a vortex? Answer. According to the definition, it is a whirling mass of water that sucks everything down in the center. A violent wind or of a cyclone. Taken from the Thorndike Bernhardt Advanced Dictionary, page 1141. Since we are dealing with time and not water, it will pertain to air or space. But the same principle applies with the tunnel instead of a whirlpool. So since the vortex we dealing with is time, we dealing with air and space. But it's the same principle as water and a whirlpool, okay? So And the one thing I want to say about everything he said right there is just one thing, is that it pulls everything down in the center. Sounds like a black hole, don't it? The vortex. It pulls everything down in the center. So let's try that. Let's see what something like that would look like. You know, a lot of people accuse me of adding or changing the knowledge and stuff. I mean, I hope y'all watching. I hope y'all can see the light. And anything that don't change is dead. So the knowledge was never intended to stay the same. Whatever that means, stay the same. Okay, so now what we was gonna say is, what we gonna do is, that's a reminder for me, y'all. I love paradoxes, so I wrote down change paradox. Okay, here we go. So now, when it talks about a whirling mass of water that sucks everything down in the center, a violent whirl of air, or a cyclone, it's something in mathematics called mathematical modeling. Some of you might have heard of it, some of you may have not. But it's something in mathematics called mathematical modeling. And so what we're going to do, we're going to model that sentence. We're about to model that. We're going to make a mathematical relevance out of a whirling mass of water that sucks everything down in the center. Let's model that. Nothing new we ain't shown before. We'll show this same thing. Let's model that. Let's say that this is a whirling mass of water. This number line, right here, from 0 to -5 over to 5 is a whirling mass of air and space of water. It's a whirling mass of that. So now, what happens when we get a whirling mass of air and water? A whirlpool or a vortex? And what does a whirlpool or a vortex do? A whirling mass of water that sucks everything down in the center. A whirling mass of air or water. A cyclone of air or water that sucks everything down. And since we're dealing with time and not water, it would pertain to air and space. So let's say that this number line begins to suck that number line down. Let's say that this bottom number line started to suck this number line all the way down, just like a black hole. We're going to suck this number line down. What's the first number we would suck down? The first number sucked down would be nu. The next number sucked down would be 0, 0. The next number sucked down would be -1 and 1. You see that? And the next number set down would be negative 2 and 2. So now if we added these numbers, negative 1 plus 1, we will get 0. Negative 2 plus 2, we will get 0. Negative 3 plus 3, we will get 0. If we divided those numbers, negative 1 divided by 1, we will get negative 1. Negative 2 divided by 2, we will get negative 1. So we can see what numbers will actually manifest if we had a vortex. We can map the mathematics of a vortex, whether the vortex is minusing, whether it's alienating, dividing, whether it's adding, or whether it's multiplying. We can see what would happen in a vortex if we had air and space being sucked down. And this could turn to a black hole now, light and matter being sucked down. We see what would happen. You see this? This is the importance of new mathematics. This is the importance of what I'm telling you, family, that what we have here is not some type of what you'll call like something that's just been made up out of my mind. No, this is way bigger than me, family. I need y'all help and support. We modeling gravity here. We modeling black holes here. We modeling whirlpools and vortexes here. One of the 7 millennium problems was a problem that dealt with Poincaré, and it actually dealt with this type of mathematics. One of the 7 millennium problems they was willing to pay $1 million for. A guy named Gregory Perelman solved that problem. Look that up. You see what I'm saying? And so now, so then we were talking about Fibonacci or phi numbers. Phi, remember, phi and Fibonacci numbers are one and the same number. They just result from a different paradigm. These are going to result from addition, and phi would result from alienation, division. So you would get phi from here, and you would get Fibonacci. Numbers from that. And so at this point, then this would be that, and this would be that. Those two would match. So, what were we? What do we want to say now? Oh, yeah. So since we're doing Fibonacci, nu plus 0 will give us nu. 0 plus nu, let's write the plus sign. 0 add 1, and 0 add nu will give us nu again. And nu add nu will give us 2 nu. And 1 nu plus 2 nu will give us 3 nu. And 2 nu plus 3 nu will give us 5 nu. And 3 nu plus 5 nu will give us 8 nu. And we could go on, let's do one more. And 8 nu plus 5 nu will give us 13 nu. These numbers are the Fibonacci numbers. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, on out into whatever you want to go to n, infinity, and on to infinitesimal. 13, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0, on into infinitesimals. But what we want to show is the mathematical modeling of a black hole, of a vortex, of a whirlpool, of any form of energy being put in a whirling mass and it begins to suck energy down, that's even based on the Fibonacci numbers. That's even based on the ancient Egyptian mathematics. I hate using the word Fibonacci, but that's all people are familiar with. If the Jews call it love numbers, y'all want to call it love numbers? So nu plus 0 plus that. So then you get your Fibonacci numbers. And this is the ancient Egyptian numbers. So this is where all things work and vibrate on this frequency here. This is a frequency. This is a frequency. And not only is it a frequency, it's a constant. It's a universal constant. This is a frequency and a universal constant. So then that makes phi, which is 8 divided by 13, or 13 divided by 8, or 5 divided by 8, or 8 divided by 5, or 3 divided by 5, or 5 divided by 3, or 2 divided by 3, or 3 divided by 2, or 1 divided by 2, or 2 divided by 1. And so you see you get up to 1, or nu divided by nu, or 1 divided by 1. And then you reach this conundrum where you have 0 divided by 1. And 0 divided by 1. And then you get higher and you get nu divided by 0. And nu divided by 0. And that number is undefined. This number is unknown to you. That number, nu divided by 0. So then your mathematics. So new mathematics wants to take you beyond this dimension here, beyond that, nu divided by 0, and take you into a whole nother area of mathematics. There's up here, there's out here, there's back there, there's over there, a whole nother level of mathematics that transcends this three-dimensional plane. And with these numbers right here, these same numbers, phi, Fibonacci, and all these numbers right here, where the origin of these numbers come from. I'm showing you the origin, but it's a super origin of where even this comes from. This comes from somewhere. So it's even higher mathematics than that. So that's what I want to show y'all. So I'll let y'all look at that while we read this in case somebody want to copy some of it down. So now, where were we? Okay, we were right here. Yeah, so what is a vortex? We read what is a vortex. We just explained that. We just mathematically modeled a vortex at that. Another thing I want to mention is, before I forget, is deja vu. That's part of the Mandela effect. Deja vu is part of the Mandela effect. Voodoo, juju, deja vu. So this is an illustration of the vortex that opens every 10 years since 1943 AD. Show y'all the illustration. Since 1943, you see the vortexes open up in the middle. You see the tetrahedrons with the tips cut off. See that? That's supreme mathematics, family. That's real mathematics. I ain't even gonna try to explain that. Just understand it. That's supreme mathematics. Let me see right quick. Okay. I got one of them. Oh, I got the other one right here. Okay, I had to find the tops to the markers. I've been dropping, so I don't want them to dry out. Look like I'm running out. Okay, so now. Okay, so what was once 60 minutes is now 15 minutes. Now go to number 15 again. What was once 60 minutes is now 15 minutes. So 60 divided by 15 will give us 15 being 1/4 of 60. So you're dealing with 3/4 less the time than you normally have. Let me show you. 60 minutes. You got 15 minutes. 60 minutes now equal 15 minutes. So this was 1/3 of time. This was 1/3 of time. This was 1/3 of time. That gives you 3/3. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. I'm sorry, not third. 1/4. 1/4, 1/4. And 60 equals 15 minutes. So 3/4. Three-fourths of your time is gone blank. What was once 60 minutes is now 15 minutes. Your time is deceiving you and has been literally shortened since 1940 AD. Every year it makes a new opening in the vortex, and different beings are coming in and out. There are more chances now than ever before of you being snatched left and right. You can get caught in time. You're going through a time continuum change. Time continuum change. Where does the time continue? Or where does time continue? The best way to try and explain a time continuum is if I said to you, do you remember your birthday? You'll say yes. Do you remember the things you did? You'll say yes. The fact that you can keep referring to the day in your mind to the point where you lock in on it makes the day continue on for as long as you remember it. That's why the Egyptians said, say my name and I'll live on. That's why everything is tied to this memory. That's why the removal of the barytheric gland, the Mandela effect, computers are tied to memory. Your memory, Tahuti was renowned for his memory. So your ability to remember or remember to come together is very important. Make ends meet. So this is what happens with a vortex in principles of time. So that's how a vortex works, just like he just explained the time continuum, like a birthday. And if you can remember it and you can keep locking in on it, it makes that day continue on as long as you remember it. So in a sense, it never ends. And this is what happens with a vortex in principles of time. You already know that's probably my love basket, so let me go get going. It's tore up. You never fixed it. You told me you would come back. It didn't come up. Come on in. Come on, babe. Come in and say hey.
Oh, okay.
Come in. I'll grab your bag.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. She being slow today, y'all. Come on in, babe. Tell everybody Rahubat.
Rahubat, yes, sir.
Rahubat.
How y'all doing?
Usra. That's right.
Rahubat. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoying your session.
That's right.
I just got home from doing groceries at the Whole Foods Market. Got a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and they got a lot of good sales in the Whole Foods Market. Yeah, they sure do. They have lots of great sales. They got the cereals, 2 for $6.
Okay.
and they got the strawberries. They got strawberries. They don't got no cherries.
You better do no advertising.
Let me stop. I just wanted to lighten up the mood.
How you doing, babe?
I'm doing good, Papa.
Okay. So I'm gonna wrap it up in a minute, and then we'll come back because I was planning on doing some of Man from Planet Risk, and we have gotten absolutely nowhere, but we have gone everywhere on the planet.
Wow, that's
So it's good, you know?
You know, I've been thinking all day long
What's
about we was listening to Holy Angel.
Yeah.
I'm walking on the street
Okay.
and I'm thinking about it all day long.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Okay. So listen, my love.
Okay.
Where was I now? The best way, okay, we did that. Now is an actual event that began in the midst of the created nothingness of your time zone. You see, we had to create a state that you call nothingness or void and emptiness in order to create something in it. At that very point is now. It does not refer simply to living in the present, although that is strongly recommended. A time warp is truly occurring, and you will continue to accelerate until now is fully reached, and the dimensions can finally interface. Nothingness and something, or the tick, which is something, and the space between the tick and the top, which is nothing to you, become one again, much like a ship landing in a spaceport at a predetermined time and moment. In other words, what you know as time and space, energy, and matter will mesh into one single factor. Now, there is more now, and that state of nothingness is one of the biggest paradoxes that's happening on the planet Earth right now. You know, whether nothing is something or something is nothing, or how do you get something from nothing? I want my family to realize that these are the questions that's being answered, though. These the highest questions on the universe, and you watching them be answered. But it's as if you still sleep, as if you don't even recognize the importance of it. Even to the point that you won't even support or help it alone. And I'm just befuddled and amazed at could my people be this sleep that they can't even see, even though I'm showing it to them. They sit and they watch it and then they don't see. But I just want to show you that some of the highest questions on the universe about numbers and about zero and about nothing, let's be honest now, the questions are go like this. How does something come from nothing? How does something come from nothing? That's what everybody want to know. That's the question in quantum science, and y'all know it. But y'all, when we sit here and we see that we now have an answer to the question, y'all ain't supposed to just sit there like, oh, that ain't no big deal. Y'all supposed to act like it's a big deal, to act like it was a big deal to answer it. So then let them know you know somebody that got the answer. It's a big deal to answer it. But then when it's answered, oh, nah, that's not a big deal. Come on, y'all. Help me out, because these answers are about the future. They're about things that's going to happen in the future. So when a person says, how you get something from nothing? Yes, I love it. There we go. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 0 equals new. That's how you get something from nothing. That's something from nothing. And later on, as we explain, and we have explained this in the past, we'll explain this via a couple of words. Outverse, inverse, reverse inverse, and this, what will this establish? It will establish identity. That's what we're establishing, identity. So by outverse, inverse, and reverse inverse, we'll establish the identity of this number. This number nu. So that's how does something come from nothing? We can show that 0 divided by 0 equals nu, that it equals something. And it's a whole nother story, like I said, when we get into beyond 0 times 0, if we get into, let's say, 0 times a number equals 0, but a number times 0 does not equal, a number times 0 does not equal 0. And that's a whole nother type of thing that we'll be dealing with right here, because right here we're just doing 0 times 0. We ain't even looking at 0 times a number or a number times 0. And right here, the same thing, we're just looking at 0 plus 0. We're not looking at 0 plus a number equaling that number, or that number plus 0 equaling that number. This establishes that any number plus 0 equals that number, so that's the identity of that number. But when we do it with multiplication, we're thinking that it should be the same, and it's not. So then when we move over here to 0 divided by 0, or let's do 0 minus 0. If we say 0 minus 0, then we know we're not dealing with n minus, well, we'll say 0 minus n equals negative e. So we're not dealing with this when we're dealing with that. And we're not dealing with n minus 0 equals n. So you see that, and then look how these two identities, let me see. Yeah. Yeah, and so then now you get 0, but we ain't dealing with 0 alienate n equals 0. And then if we took n alienate 0, that will equal this new number 0n. So this is important, and this is another number. So like this number is new. Now when we look into the identities of it, we get another number called on, or un. Let me erase that like that, because that's 0n. But the name of the number is un. So now we got a number on, and we have a number new. So when we're looking at how does something come from nothing, we have 0 divided by 0 equals nu, and then we have n divided by 0 equals some number 2 or something. So we can produce something in dividing with 0. And 0 as the denominator or the divisor, we could actually produce something from that. So yes, we can get something from nothing. We should improve that, and that's mathematically rigorous throughout the universe. So let's see. So now there's more time than there was a few months ago, and even more now on the way right up to the year 2003. Your time warp started in 1940 AD with the Philadelphia experiment, which will be explained later. Because they did not have a computer, they needed 3 years to create one. On August 12, 1943 AD, called the Rainbow Project. This experiment is what caused a vortex to open up, causing extraterrestrials to come into this dimension because of the magnetic pull from the big generators that supplied the energy for the invisibility project for Philadelphia, in Philadelphia. So this project was called the Rainbow Project. And this Rainbow Project, this experiment is what caused the vortex to open up and caused the extraterrestrials to come through. And they come into this dimension because of the magnetic pull from the big generators that supplied the energy for the Invisibility Project in Philadelphia. So this was the Invisibility Project as well. So the vortex can be opened by extraterrestrials from the 6th density, from their time reference. 1/6 incident, such incident occurred on June 6, 1966. Do the math. That's the 6th month, the 6th day, 66. 6 months, 6 days, 1966. An incident occurred, which was the birth date of 13 sons who were born to the devil. All types of malevolent beings came through to Earth during this time. So I wish I would have did the 12 up to 13 because that time would have showed you that. But this is the B sons, and this is 666. And remember when we talked about 6 times 6 times 6 equaling 432. But okay, remember that now. But don't forget, this is the harmonics of the Earth. This is the harmonics of the sun. This is the harmonics of a lot of stuff. Okay? So now, we want to show this number 666 and how you have this number 666. Okay? So now, the vortex can be opened by extraterrestrials from the 6th density. So, right there, one of the things we can talk about is just so much. It's so much I know that my people don't know. Right there, we can barely move. We basically doing the book word for word. Because he's talking about here 6th density. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, who knows what the 6th density is? What's the 6th density? Well, then, what's the 5th density? What's the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st, and then what's 0 density? Okay, and what's -0 density? What's -1 density? What's new density? What's undensity? We want to know all that. So what is density level? And what makes up density? Is it mass? Is it weight? Because none of that exists. Mass does not exist. Mass is a property of matter. Weight does not exist. Weight is a property of matter. So density does not exist. Density is a property of matter and energy. So when we say 6th density, when we say mass, when we say weight, we're merely just talking about properties of a matter. But what exactly do you mean when you say 6th density? What exactly do you mean when, because if you have a 6th density, then there's a 5th density. And what measured the 5th density? Well, it was the 4th density. The 4th density plus what equals 5th density? The 4th density plus 1 density. Then what is 1 density equal to? Explain to me exactly what is 1 density. What is a density? What is a density? What is 1 density? And what is 0 density? You see? So when you read it, you have to stop and ask yourself a question like 6th density. What is 6th density? Is the density the same thing as a plane? Is the density a dimension? Is it just a state? Is it also conditions? What is the density? What is the density? Is it measured in degrees? Is it measured in magnitudes? Is it measured in scalar? Is it measured by multiples? What is the density? And that's where new mathematics comes in at. That's where what I'm talking about becomes relevant, because these questions have not been answered for you, family. They cannot tell you what a density is. They wouldn't even know to tell you a density is a property. They would have tried to answer that question. Just like gravity. They think gravity exists. Gravity itself is a property. It's a description of matter. It's a description describing the particles. Therefore, gravity itself is not defined in a sense of being a physical reality. Gravity is a description of what's taking place within those particles. So you can't confuse the forces with the field or the particles with the waves. You see? So now, and I'm intentionally not really explaining what density is. I'm intentionally not explaining what shape, form, color, and matter is. I'm intentionally not explaining that. So now, let's see. So he wrote, so the vortex can be opened up from beings on the 6th density. And remember, he also tells us, let me give you some clues. He tells you that the 6th density, but he tells you that these disagreeable beings, they operate on the 5th dimension. They operate from the 5th dimension, but they occupy the 6th density. Let me show you something. When we look at the numbers above, we have new. We have 0. We have 0. We have 1. We have 1. We have 2. We have 2. We have 3. We have 3. We have 4. We have 4. We have 5. We have 6. We have 7. We'll stop right there. Let's even erase 7. So this is the 5th dimension. And this is, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is the 5th dimension. This is the 6th density. Or should we say, I did that wrong. I did it wrong, y'all. I'm sorry. I apologize. A lot to think about here. That's it. This is the 5th dimension. This is the 6th density. 5th dimension, dimensional mathematics. 6th density, material mathematics. Never seen it before. 5th density, 5th dimension, 6th density. Okay. So now, we are where we started at the very beginning. When I read the words, let me start from the beginning, that's where we are. And we'll stop on this question. Question, when and how did all of these incidents come about with the time machine and the vortex getting locked up? We made it exactly to page 38. That's 19 times 2. That's positivity and that's growth for me. Peace and love, family. Love, light, and laughter. All right? Love, light, life, and laughter. All 4. Okay? Peace. I'll talk to y'all again, maybe even later on this shadow hour if BASTET is up for it. If not, I'll talk to y'all in the new day. Peace.